Hey all, this is Paul from Drums and Rums with the Backbeats Meets the Spirits. We've got a great episode here as part of our month-long episodes with guests who are drum makers, percussion makers, anything in the manufacturing space within drums. I think this is kind of a very fascinating thing. At least I find it fascinating. Individuals or companies that are making these drum products and hear their stories, how they've got into it. You know, some of the ups and downs, especially the last 2 years, and a lot of these are independent, smaller labeled, companies. So it's really great to kind of get some opportunity to share some of these companies with y'all that may not be familiar with them and may actually be very familiar with them. So I could be maybe the one who's been living under a rock. But let me go ahead and welcome to the podcast, Nick Moon. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And actually, just my name is Nick Margarite. Moon is just my fancy stage name.
Oh man,
Don't worry, everybody does that because like they would, who would know? So,
but I was just telling my kids that I'm like, oh, I was like, yeah, what they said something. I was like, well, I'm just gonna be talking to the guy's last name is Moon today, and they're like, what?
Yeah, rock star name sounds so cool.
Oh yeah, hey yeah. So,
it was manufactured.
Oh, fake news.
Yeah, fake news, exactly.
It's all right. My last name, I won't say last name, but the name I go by is not my last name. So there we go. So we're fair. We're both fake. Well, I don't know. Kind of. I don't know. Anyway,
it's a pseudonym.
That's it. I like that. That's better. Pseudonym is better than saying fake. Yes.
So pen name or whatever they call it. Yeah, for artists or writers.
Yes.
But thank you for having me, man. This is awesome.
Yeah. No, it's I appreciate it. And like I said, and big shout out to Kira who we had on last month for making this connection and learning a little bit, and I appreciate you listening to that episode where you did pick up on I seemed like I need to talk to this guy. And thanks for definitely reaching out and connecting
Kira is the best, man. I love her spirit and just listening to her talk too. She got a great voice.
And I told her, I said, I don't know how you recorded that. I said, and I know because obviously she's a professional musician, etc., and does her own set of podcasts. I'm like, your audio was probably the best, and then anyone I've ever had recorded through Zoom, because the Zoom is not the greatest recording, right?
Yeah. It's all kind of has like little weird like garbly sounds and stuff, but I think that's all just the transferring digital information.
But like yourself there, you've got a pretty good setup there. So I that's a lot of the folks, and maybe that's something I got to do better about, is trying to help coach some of the guests that we have on that may not be set up with the right kind of stuff. But anyway, so
yeah. Well, you know what it is, man. If people are listening and they don't have headphones, the like your voice is coming through their computer and then getting recorded again through whatever microphone they're using. So it's like it doubles it. That's what I see a lot of people doing wrong.
Right.
Yeah. So anyhow, anyways.
Yeah. So I thought we were going to talk about drums, and here we're talking.
Yeah, we can talk about whatever you want. I don't know. We're just going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that can happen here. So
that's fine.
Yeah. No. So So Nick, and I again, kind of like I said, we got a lot to cover here, and we'll kind of. I know, obviously, you're as we said, you're a cymbal maker. So obviously, you had to get into making drums. So you've been playing drums since you were like this. Everyone's story goes, pots and pans, probably really little, starting out, and then you went to Berkeley in Boston. So
yes, sir.
So did you do any music in school before you got to Berkeley?
Yes, that was the only thing that kept me sane in school. I hated school like with a passion. I started playing drums when I was 6 years old, at home, pots and pans, just like you said. Started taking lessons, very early, like 10, 11 years old. And as soon as I was in school and I realized, oh, they have concert band, there's a jazz band. Oh my gosh, I can do that. Great. I wasn't even really into jazz, but I just wanted to be able to play drums in school. So, and we had an incredible music program at my school. So, and we used to compete and everything. And I ended up getting a scholarship to go to Berkeley, and that's how that happened. So yeah.
No, that's because a lot. I find it, a lot of the guests that come on, that music foundation, and I think for kids coming out of school, unless you're fully, like you said, if you're fully in the band thing or music thing in school, it is probably very hard to convince your parents that you want to go to a music education, and in Berkeley and
Yeah.
some of those schools are very specific to that. So
Yeah. Well, for my family, my Boston in general is very education oriented. Like you have to go to college because it's college central, you
right.
know? And my parents are teachers. So it was like, you have to go somewhere to college, or like, you just have to. And I was like, well, I'm only going to this. This is the only place that I'll go. Like, that's it. So that was it. That was that.
So that's got to be, that probably had to be very difficult if they're both teachers and you're like, I hate school.
Yeah, it was. I just didn't like it. I mean, I'm not dumb or anything. I'm intelligent, but I just couldn't sit there. I was like, it's so boring.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so bored. Like, I just want to do something else, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a kind of a pretty interesting thing is you're right. Yeah. And it's school. I think we're going to really kind of tangent here, but try to come back in is we had a little talk about schooling with a previous guest also just recently. And he said, I'm not against school, but just wasn't my thing. And, and he's making a living being a pro full-time drummer and, and he's doing what he loves and so forth. But you're right. It's that to think is maybe now, as you said, we're in our, I won't give away our ages, but, we're probably fairly close in age. That we look back, or people look back and say, well, back in the 70s, 80s, or however far back, there was no such thing as ADHD or these things. Yeah, there was always fidgety kids, and you're right. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to. Hell, an adult can't even sit for an hour in wherever it may be because unless it's not engaging, and that's some of the part of the education is that maybe that's always been a problem is that it's not engaging because there is so much other things out there that are attracting people's attention and so forth. So.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. So I probably should have done like the vocational school route or something like I you know what I mean? Like I should have done something more hands-on, but that's just.
Yeah, but I was thinking about that. Obviously with this, what we're going to talk about here is what you do as a craft. And, and I think that does say something that even as you mentioned, there is a lack of vocation. Everything is a pendulum that swings back and forth. And my father was a tool and die maker, and awesome. by trade. So that's where some of this manufacturing, this interest. I'm like, that's what I want to talk a little bit about.
Sure,
I
love
like
that stuff.
The machines, lathes and milling machines, and and all that stuff. And I was thinking, there's a lot because a lot of that manufacturing has been sent overseas or offshore, but there's a need for it, right? There's still. It's a skill, and there's nothing wrong with having not going to an college education versus being a tradesman in whatever it said may be. So, So anyway, I know
it's an education. It's just a different kind of education. That's all it is. Like people, it's just you're learning about something that you do with you make something tangible for the world. It's very important.
Yeah. Look, you're definitely no robot. I don't know, but. No robot's going to replace or offshores, replace plumbers, electricians and, anyway, so it's definitely, so. All right.
I mean, honestly, I think now we're starting to see, not to get too into the whole political sphere or whatever, but with everything going on in the world and the supply chain being wrecked from COVID and the Russia thing,
right.
It's starting to become very apparent that doing business like this global economy where everything has to be shipped over from China or whatever, the cost of that is it's no longer like a cheaper option. Now it's actually starting to look like, we should probably be just making the stuff back in the US. We'll get it faster. It'll cost the same or maybe even less. And we'll keep the money here.
Right.
So I'm hoping that shift, it's actually, the shift is already happening. Like people like me and other makers in just the music industry alone. There are a lot of people starting to do this stuff here again, which is great,
Yeah, no, it's you're right, and all the cost of all the movement and logistics and transportation.
The fuel right now alone, just to an ocean liner, whatever amount of oil it costs to run that thing to get it from China to Port Newark is like no longer a viable option. I don't think.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know why nobody thinks about that with all the concerns about. Greenhouse gases that you're shipping a lot of stuff very far distance for a small amount of trade-off. But You got to look at the big pictures when it comes to the economics. But all right, so we've now talked about school and economics, and
Yeah, I can go off on anything, man. So like I'm game. So wherever you lead me, I'm there.
that could be a bad thing, right?
We could be here for a while, but I got time, so it's cool.
Okay,
it's Sunday, so whatever, man.
yeah. So no, again, I appreciate. So going into obviously I think that's probably, as you mentioned there, the vocational stuff. But yet where you kind of, as you said, if you went in the vocational route, maybe things would have obviously not been different. You ever think back and say, as you mentioned there, if you went vocational, do you think you'd still be at this point where you're at?
Yeah, I think I would always have ended up here one way or another. This always felt like destiny to me, but it would have just been a different ride, different path, Yeah. Maybe I might have arrived sooner actually, because I would have had some of the skills that I would have needed quicker. Like I didn't know a lot about using certain kinds of tools and stuff. Like I knew I could make cymbals, but I didn't know how to operate a lathe at one point. Like I didn't even know how to work it or where to get one. That was a big learning curve, like all that stuff. If I had been more familiar around that kind of gear, like I think I probably would have jumped in it even quicker,
So like most of us, I went also most of my high school years was in the Northeast, New Jersey, and I don't know if they still do a lot of it here. I don't know. I'm not quite sure even here in Florida, but those shop classes, right? And how it may seem as crazy as not interest, but yeah, at least it did teach kids how to use some machinery, which they probably don't today. Because it's also, I don't think it's a huge cost, I'm sure, to the school. But I remember that being in middle school or high school was in shop class and running the saws and making or whatever. But now today, and I'll show you this real quick. But now today is, my son's got a 3D printer, and obviously, we've 3D printed out,
that's awesome.
Drums and Rums. And I asked him, I said, hey, do you know, do they make 3D printers that actually do metal? And he goes, well, it'd be really hot. And I'm like, that's true, but I don't know. So it's manufacturing in general, which, like I said, I think that's kind of what's fascinating me. So, Nick, for the listeners, and for me too, is what's the story of making cymbals? I mean, can you give like a little overview of cymbal making history? Like far back as you know, and then obviously what kind of interested you into want to make cymbals. And then, I got a couple things here I want to, I'll sprinkle in and kind of as we talk through the bulk of this episode here. Yeah. So I mean, I guess, the cymbals. I mean, how, what's the whole story behind it, right?
I'll try to condense it because it's like pretty dense. And I've gone pretty in depth on a few podcasts. Like I did like the drum history. We did a couple of these like really long things about the whole history. But basically cymbals are as old almost as like humans. They go back way further than most people know. Sort of like the common paradigm or whatever is like that Zildjian is cymbals began with them. And that's not true. Modern cymbals kind of began with them, but cymbals themselves go back to like early human civilizations that were used in like ritual worship and other things like that. So it's back to like the Bronze Age,
Okay.
So they're a part of human life, which is pretty awesome. And they've evolved a lot over the years. And but like I said, the Zildjian story is kind of where everybody picks it up because that's where it became like a modern thing that's part of our world now. So coincidentally, which is just a sort of a side note, but the Zildjian thing was in Turkey, right? In Constantinople. And my family lineage goes back to Constantinople to a town called Mudanya, which is not far from where they were, which is pretty cool. And I actually visited there this past summer just to see, which was pretty interesting. I did a little cymbal pilgrimage. So it's in my blood. My ancestors were weaving silk over there. They were craftspeople as well. So it's definitely in my blood. It's something I've always, and as a drummer, I was always fascinated with cymbals. I was almost fascinated with the gear more than I was actual drumming. Like drumming was like just part of it, but the gear was really what got me excited. And I remember playing and seeing cymbals and just being so fascinated by them. Like it was such a secret at that time. Like you couldn't see anything about how they were made. It was so secretive. Things are so much different now. It's so much more transparent, especially because of people like myself who put it out there. But that mystery captivated me. And I always knew, like, I want to learn more about this. You know, whenever the time is right, I'm going to learn more about this and I'm going to do something about it. So, one of the things that got me into actually being hands-on was like, I just never had enough money to get the stuff that I wanted. Like, I come from a, you know, normal, humble, you know, middle-class life. And there wasn't a lot of money to throw around at new stuff or whatever. So if I wanted to figure out what a new sound was going to be or a new thing, like I kind of realized I had to try to make it myself. And that spirit sort of followed me for my whole life. So, initially I started with experimenting with making drums and modifying and customizing drums. And then that just kind of led me back into the cymbal, you know, world.
So growing up then is, did you obviously, you must have had access to all sorts of tools, machinery and so forth. And that's something that, I guess, what was that influence or exposure from?
I just had the tools that were in my house. I mean, I lived in a home. It was a 2-family home with my parents and my grandparents all together. So whatever tools my dad and my grandfather had in the garage is what I had access to, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of, as you said, that there's that things were started as, and that's a great point. Cause it always seems like, you know, and it comes to, I'm sure, marketing and, you know, and
that's what they want you to believe,
right? That Zildjian's has been around, or these cymbals forever and ever, you know, and they've got a very foreign kind of name for most people, and they know it's very similar to as Zildjian and Sabian are the two big companies, and I know there's you could probably talk a little bit about those two companies because there is a tie there, but
sure.
Is like in the rum world for those of that are listening that are the rummers. Is like Bacardi and the Captain Morgan. You know, these are big companies that've got a huge marketplace, and you know, and I'll talk. I want to talk to you a little bit more about, you know, obviously where you are versus, right, you know, and it's like a lot of the craft spirits that we have here. They're up against these big boys, and they got a lot of marketing over here, and trying to just crack that nut. And rather than competing against each other, you're trying to compete against, you know, the bigger guys. But So yeah, no, that was interesting. So you were making a lot of your own kind of thing, which is kind of really cool. And you had the ability, you had it's like, how does this work? The little tinkering, inventorish kind of spirit.
Yeah, exactly. I just started messing around with stuff that I had and seeing what would happen when I changed it.
Right.
You know, it was a very long process of mostly destroying things, because it usually doesn't go well, especially in the beginning. You know, you don't know what you're doing.
And sometimes that's how it's the great part, right? Is you stumble across these things like, hey, let me go down and try this. Nobody has done this before. And maybe there's a reason why nobody's done this before. Or maybe nobody thought of it either way. And so with that history there, you know, you mentioned the Bronze Age. Why bronze? I mean, again, I should probably know this, but you know, why is it bronze and not any other type of metal?
Because so bronze is an alloyed metal, which means it's a combination of copper with another metal. There's many different kinds of bronze, but it's a general term, but it usually refers to copper alloyed with tin. An alloy doesn't mean the two things come together and become something else. It means that the copper and the tin are weaved together and they work together in a structure. And then that's what bronze is. It's those two elements held together in sort of like a crystal weave, right? And the combination of those two things together creates the right properties for vibration to happen. And vibration is sound. So bronze will resonate better than any other metal. And that's why bronze is the ultimate tool for cymbals, because it just allows for resonance.
Okay. Like I said, I should have, I say that I proclaim that I do play the drums, but I guess I should have known that, right? But
well, I don't think anybody, that's not something that's common knowledge. I don't think it's pretty heady stuff. You know, I didn't even know that before I started making cymbals. So
yeah, that's, because you see everything, you hear a lot of talk about, and let me grab something here.
Sure.
So you're probably very familiar, obviously, most that are probably who start out playing drums, right? And again, don't mind all the little Don't worry, the cymbal does not have chicken pox. Okay,
I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
Is there cheese on there?
No. Yeah, I got to throw mozzarella on my cymbals. So
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, no, I know. So for those that are listening, you definitely going to have to watch the video to see what we're talking about here. But
Right.
yeah, no, I used excuse me. I used this cymbal for our 25 days of it's like an advent calendar where I did a rum reveal every day. And I did a video, and you don't talk about crazy. I churned videos every day, every time there was a reveal. What I had was, and again, advent rum advent calendars are not cheap, and they're also very hard to find. So we kind of, during 2020 Christmas, we kind of came up with our own little thing. So my wife would buy the different bottles. I wouldn't know what was in them. I'd open them up and say, all right, this is what we got. Let's see what we can make. And then the next day I'd make a drink with that and then open up another one. So anyway, so this year I moved into the room here, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this back wall. And I had this on the wall before the shelves, and this is what I was hanging all these bottles on. Was a cymbal. Cool. So at least I was trying to still keep a drum reference to it. And then it kind of grew into what we got behind me. But yeah, nice. So there's the explanation of why this cymbal here looks a little funky. So
cool.
But so yeah, so like here is a Sabian cymbal that I have. It's it says B8. So what if if somebody saw this and they're like, well, is that just a model? Which I know it, but I mean, what is B8?
B8 is a type of bronze. It's called a phosphor bronze alloy. It's Sabian very, very selectively titled the series of cymbals B8 for a reason, because at the time Paiste was making some high-end cymbals out of that material as well and becoming a more serious competitor. So Sabian's approach was to let's make our cheapest cymbal line out of this material and we'll call it B8 so that in people's minds, this is a cheap thing. So that's why they did that. So what B8 is a very, the type of bronze alloy used for high-end cymbals, we call B20, is not used for anything in the commercial world. It's really just a cymbal-specific alloy. It's prepared a very unique way. And that was sort of Zildjian's contribution, was their method of preparing this became very popular, and that's what's still used for this kind of bronze. So, but B8 is used for all kinds of things, gears, bushings, all kinds of parts in the commercial world. So it's widely available. It's fairly easy to get. It's manufactured in really large quantities, so it's cheaper and it's much easier to machine and make into a cymbal very quickly. You can shear form it or spin form it, and basically in a very short amount of time have a finished cymbal.
So it's very versatile. Is it just because it was, as you mentioned, in bushings or so forth? Is it because it's a little bit more durable than other?
It can be cast in a method that's called continuous casting, which is like it's done in these really large industrial quantities. And because you don't need a specific foundry just to make the cymbal bronze, it's already being made for a million other things. You know what I mean? They're making these large quantities, and then whatever needs to be made from those sheets, they can make from those sheets.
Oh, okay.
So that's why, a company like Sabian can just go, okay, hey, give me, this particular diameter and thickness, and they can just get it. And then they can just machine it really quickly once they receive it, and then they're done. So Sabian doesn't make that bronze on site. That's from an outside supplier. Whereas the B20 bronze is made in-house because it's very specific to cymbals.
So the B8, as you mentioned there, that what I just showed you is the same that Paiste is using. For
2002, for several of their series, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But Paiste is much better at making it into high quality instruments.
Okay, so they've taken that B8 and made it they've improved upon that same metal for the cymbal. Probably with
they have decided that, listen, if we spend the appropriate amount of time with this, we can really make something incredible with it. Whereas the other companies have said, well, this is just something we can work with very quickly and make a cheap beginner product with.
Okay.
But Zildjian and Sabian, they stand behind their B20 because that's their whole, it's our secret family alloy. So for them to make a high-end cymbal out of this other metal goes against their marketing message. So that's, you know what I mean? They're kind of sticking to their guns.
I got I got you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah, because I think that's kind of where I was going with the question was, it's a sense of the B8s are sold by, as I know a lot more. Those are probably 15, almost 20-year-old cymbals what I had there, but it was marketed more as like the entry level for some of the Sabian stuff as opposed to some of their higher end HAX and so whatever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting is, yeah. So again, it's not a I guess what I'm trying to go to is not a mark of if somebody's seen you're playing B8s that it's the same metal, but it's not as additional craftsmanship put into it as Peisty has done with theirs. Like that
right.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right.
Right. Like so Peisty will take that blank, right, flat disc, and they will apply like traditional cymbal making techniques of actually hammering the shape into the bow and all this other stuff. Whereas those B8 cymbals, I don't know if you've ever seen spin forming. It's basically it's a lathe that spins really fast, right? And there's a mold of the desired shape that you want. You place the flat blank on top and you use this big tool to like basically stretch it as it spins. And then it just makes the shape. Oh, wow. And that's how like all kinds of like lamps and old like airplane parts used to be made. It's kind of a dying art form now, but that's how they make those. And then once you do that, it's done. Put a logo on it and send it out the door. There's nothing else done. There's no hammering or anything. Or if there is hammering, it's just pressed in with a die. It's not actually hammered.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's
it's just like it's a 2-step process. It's zip logo and like, see you later. Bye. So they sell it for like $100, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because it's like, doesn't take them long to do.
Right.
That's all. But I will say this, that material B8 has unique properties sonically where it has more high frequencies. It doesn't have the same lows that the other one does, but makes it good for like hard rock and heavy metal. And a lot of hard rock and heavy metal drummers prefer to use that because it cuts through loud amplified guitars and stuff much easier. So it's really like what you use, whatever works for what you're playing.
Right.
Know?
Yeah. And I heard, and I was watching a little bit of doing my homework here was an episode you did on the drum candy. Would I have it right? Drum candy?
Drum candy with Dawson.
Yeah. And talking about and he asked that question. Hey, if I was a customer, I called you up cold, what are you telling? And it was interesting. You said, I would ask what type of sticks they play.
Yes, that's always one of my first questions.
And it's kind of as you just said, there was metal and what type of music even, and because you got to have that right fit, and so yeah. So I guess that was kind of interesting. So with that cymbal and going through using, so as you mentioned, there Zildjian and Sabian was. And for the listeners or et cetera, what's that history that they have? And I know we're going to talk about you because it's going to lead into the question I want to ask here.
That's fine. I can go off on this. I got to be careful here because this is like their big like thing that they've been protecting for a long time, and I don't want to like, but. Basically,
go as much as you or little or whatever.
I mean, it's not really like there's not really like much of a secret. Like there's plenty of other foundries in Turkey that are making the same material. Right. So like it's kind of goofy that they're still like hanging on to that, but that's what they've been resting on. So, but like what they hide, right, from their top people, even in their foundry in Boston. Like I can walk into Turkey, and I did this summer, and just walk right into the melting room, and they're like, "Here, we're doing it right now. Look, just watch." It's the same because those Turkish foundries are descendants of people that worked at K Zildjian in Turkey. Like it all goes back to there. So like it's the same process. You know what I mean? So there's really like nothing to be hidden, but they just basically came up with, I guess, certain steps in the production process that sort of made it work well.
Okay.
And that's their family secret. It's not really a secret though anymore. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I don't want to say more than that because I don't want them to like come after me and be like, "Oh, you can't say that." Like it is what it is. Like it's just that. So, but that's, I've never seen documentation to like prove or disprove it, but I'm very skeptical of things that, mm, boy, does it, it's a great story.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a great story. It really is. And if I had that story, I would probably use it too. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I see very similar parallels there with, obviously, they're right, the Zildjian name and the Sabian name, there's a tie because it's part of the was it the two
it's
brothers?
the same family.
Yeah,
You know that, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
all the same family. They have the same manufacturing equipment for the most part. I mean, the Sabian factory used to be a Zildjian facility. It just Bob Zildjian got it when they split, changed the name, and just started manufacturing basically the same stuff. Just a Sabian AA and a Zildjian A, you could just wipe the logo off and you can't even tell the difference, like at all.
Right.
Like it's the same exact thing,
Right. So other than supporting, in an independent or a smaller company like, NickyMoon Cymbals, I guess what separates you from somebody like that, those guys?
Just the fact that mass production is mass production. Like there's only so much time you can dedicate to an individual piece when you're making that many units. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's impossible unless you want to hire more staff, which of course they don't, because it's at the end of the day, they want to make money. These businesses are designed to make profit. And once they get to a certain level, there's a board of directors and finance gets involved. Like the craftsman stuff is like, yeah, whatever. Like, what are the numbers at the end of the year? Right. So for them to have to hire like 50 or 100 people to hand hammer as meticulously as I do, like they don't want to do that because those are going to have to be highly paid people, So they abridge the process. They make it shorter. They have like, maybe 7 guys who hand hammer, but they hand hammer very little because they've already done part of the work with machinery and everything to sort of make the process quickly, stuff like that. So what I do is a great deal of individual attention to each piece. That's really the heart of what a craftsman product is. Like, forget about the tool. Like, yeah, I have a power hammer, I have hand hammer. Like I have a lot of the same gear that they have, but it's the amount of time that I spend with it and how individual each cymbal is. Even if it's part of a series or whatever, it's still like I have this intense relationship with each thing because it's just me working on it. It's not like I do one step, somebody does another step, somebody does another step, and it just gets passed around. You know how manufacturing works. It's like,
right.
It's a line. It goes through the whole thing, and then you get to the end and it's done. A lot is lost in that, as far as like the intricacies of the piece of work. So it's like the art part of it gets pushed back.
Right.
And the quantity part of it gets pushed forward. And
right.
I focus on the art part of it.
Right. And that's probably how it all started for, all of these companies was something. And then again, once you start growing and get bigger and bigger, that, like you said, you've got to answer to other people, and then you lose some of that artistic and craftsmanship. And there's a really, now it's like, now hopefully I don't get in trouble for even saying this, but but it's kind of like how a lot of stuff that you buy at Walmart, there's not a whole lot of it's quick and highly mass produced at a cheaper cost, as opposed to maybe something that will last longer, maybe through more craftsmanship and timing and so forth. So so don't sue me because I got no money, Zildjian or
it's just it's like value, it's quality over quantity. Right. Really, it's about what's important to you. Like if you're just like dad rock drummer who doesn't care, he's playing top 40 songs and he just needs like cheap cymbals, then like God, play Zildjian, dude. I don't care. Like but if you're somebody who cares more about the stuff that you play, and you look at your instruments as an extension of yourself, we're humans, we're complicated, we have all these different emotions and experiences. And I think as an artist, as a musician who's trying to use music to portray these feelings and things, your tools should also be made with those same emotions and feelings. And I think that really does make a difference to the art at the end,
Yeah. And I think that's and I'm most of your customers, I guess, the target customers is, I'm sure, right. You it's not that you would discern from anyone wanting to buy your cymbals, but most of your customers are very specific on what they're looking for. They understand it. They have a little bit more experience and appreciation too, right?
Right,
For what
absolutely.
you're making.
And I can give them an experience that you just can't get from a big company. You can't go to Zildjian and be like, hey, I like this model that you have, but can you like flare up the edge just a little bit and make it just a tad thinner? They're gonna be like, no, you get the one that's at the store. Like that's what you get. But for me, like I said, like even if it is one of my series of models, if you're like, hey, I love this particular model, but I want it a little bit drier, I want a little bit more stick, like whatever. Yeah, great. It's NickyMoon Custom Cymbals. That's like, that should underline custom.
Right.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and it's, again, I see a lot of parallels to, again, trying to keep hopefully the folks that are in the middle that are not the drummers interest into this, is that I see a lot of that parallels, as you mentioned, with like, craft spirits. Is, it is a smaller scale, a lot of love and attention, can do certain things. They're only answering them themselves because they're the boss, and obviously enough that they're happy to don't have to have mega money kind of billionaire kind of but they're happy with the life, they're happy with what they do, they're proud of the work they do, they're honest pay, and so that's really, so NickyMoon Cymbals here. Okay, so as you mentioned, because I was looking there at some of the products you have, and I'm like just kind of fascinating some of the different textures and some of the different, some that look like they've been sitting in the bottom, like it very funky. They're not shiny. There's some, again, what are some of those different kind of things, like the dry, how do you make a cymbal dry versus more brighter, or somewhere in that between, and then maybe talk about the product line that you have too.
Sure. So yeah, there's a wide bronze. Again, one of the reasons that bronze is great for making cymbals, other than it has the vibration factor, is that it's very manipulative. Like, not manipulative, you can manipulate it to do a lot of different things. You can get a lot out of it. So, a cymbal is not a cymbal is not a cymbal is not a cymbal is the point. So yeah, you can really use the same starting blank and get two completely different end results based on how you hammer it and shape it, the shape of the bow, the amount of tension in the metal, meaning how stiff the cymbal is. Like, can you bend it or not bend it, right? Is it loose? If you hit the edge, does it wobble? How did you lathe it? Did you lathe it deeply? Did you lathe it gently? Did you lathe it only in a certain area? Is it lathed equally? Or is it lathed as a taper? What's the size of the bell? Like, there's a bazillion factors that can be used to influence and manipulate the final sound. So it's hard to explain. It's not like hey, you do this and this happens, you do this and this happens. It's a little bit more complicated, but in general, people tend to want either like a more open and bright kind of sound, or full lush kind of vibe, or there's like the dark and dirty kind of dry stuff that people like, and then there's some gray areas in between. So I try to cover all of that with the series that I offer. And I have like the one series for me is if I had to design, the perfect cymbal for Nick, like what all the things that I like in the world of cymbals, and put it all together in one series, that's what the one series was designed to be. And then that's split off into two subgroups now. There's the one series Old World, which is sort of my take on the old vintage K Zildjian stuff. There's the one series Clear, which is sort of my take on the early Zildjian stuff from the US in like the 50s, 60s. There's the Sentinel, which is a series that's a little bit more of the dry, dark, and dirty, that will take you into like the Agop traditional and 30th anniversary stuff like that. And there's the Blue Collar Boutique, which is the sort of more budget oriented series, a little bit less handwork, made a little bit quicker, but still really nice. And then there's the Sage series, which is something that I designed for Mike Dawson from the Drum Candy podcast, and the million other things that Mike Dawson does, which is a Swiss Army knife cymbal, super versatile cymbal that works in like every setting, but still has a ton of character, because Mike is like a deep and brooding individual with a lot of depth. So I had to incorporate that as well. Yeah. No, I hope that answer was sufficient. I don't know.
No. Yeah, no. Because I think a couple things that I was thinking about was, as you mentioned, the custom aspect. Yeah. none of the bigger companies, you're not getting anything custom unless you're a sponsored artist and it has a series and you're, a top drummer or recognized,
Yeah.
etc.
A
That
big artist too.
right,
You got to be like a real name, like not just like, because those companies have tons and tons of sponsored artists, but only like the JoJo Mayers and like those guys are the ones that can, go in and say, hey, design me a series,
it,
So
it's yeah, because it's not like you said, it's not cheap to set up that type of manufacturing. It's also probably more of a specific niche of buyers. I mean, he wants it, but at the end of the day, I'm sure the cymbal companies still want to make money from JoJo Mayer's custom line
of
of
course
cymbals, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just for JoJo, but yeah, there's a trade off there. But so also, have you ever had a request that was like a half and half, like maybe like a black and white cookie, where it was somewhat half is dry and half is bright?
Yeah, I've gotten some of the most ridiculous. I should have like saved some of these emails and requests. Like I have had people request the strangest things. Like, hey man, I want it to sound like a train whistle, like 5 miles off the distance, like just about to go over a cliff, and then like it gets hit by a bird. And I'm like, how do I do that? All right, man, I'll get back to you in a week. But then I'd make it happen.
Yeah. All right, let me go. Let me go get a train and we go drive it off. Okay. Oh, that's what it sounds like. Okay.
But yeah, there is the occasional like, hey man, I want dark, bright, dry but not dry, like wet but loose, tight, like small but also big, heavy but light, thin. I'm just like, you need more than one cymbal, dude, to cover all that.
Yeah.
Like I can't do that. Yeah, it's funny, but I always do my best to sort of break it down with people. I try to take the time to explain, because the people, not everybody understands what the parameters are and what's possible and what's not possible. And I try not to be a jerk about it, because they might not know.
Yeah. And I think that's what's tough is for that's probably one of the toughest instruments, unless you're able to go to an actual drum shop or something to that nature. Is nobody wants you banging on the shit in the store. Nobody wants to going into that room and crashing on every cymbal that's in there, and it's very hard to kind of understand what you want. And I mean, some of the box stores here, right? There's so much more than just that, but it's hard to. Some of these instruments are things you actually have to physically touch and then hear and understand. And yeah, the internet's gotten a little bit better about, like we were talking about YouTube, was you can post videos and things. So people can kind of hear it. And again, as long as it's good quality, like we were saying, like the Zoom recording, right? It's getting recorded, it's bouncing in, and it's and in that essence. But So yeah, I was kind of just thinking, it's like, wow, so can you get a dry? Yeah, because some of those cymbals I saw was like, yeah, definitely really dry. Almost looked like it'd been sitting in the back of the shed and had gotten a lot of weathering and
That's the point, to sort of mimic those things that have been around, because there's a market for that stuff, But the problem is with that old stuff is the bronze age hardens over its entire life. It just keeps changing. Bronze never is the same. So it gets more and more hard, which is great, but it also gets hardness is equal with brittleness. So as it hardens, it becomes more brittle. So it becomes more and more prone to cracking. There's very few of those on the market that don't have cracks or rivet holes drilled in them or other issues. So it's like, how do you get somebody a new instrument that has those same sonic qualities, but without all the problems and the ridiculous price tag, Right. I found ways to do that.
Yeah. No, it's and that's, again, just drawing a comparison is, I hear a lot of folks that talk about rum that was made, 40 years ago and a certain kind of thing, and have people trying to reproduce it today. And it's like, you probably could, but it's not actually going to be exactly the same thing, because the water, or certain characteristics of that process is never can be reproduced. But yet you try to make your best, closest representation as maybe using the same methods. But again, all the other things that are kind of go into that process is not always the same, right? As you mentioned in Turkey, they're making those products and those cymbals, and it's the condition of of that environment is obviously different than here in the U.S., right?
Yes, much different.
Yeah. So
No OSHA.
yeah.
That's the big one.
No
Yep.
OSHA. Yeah. No injuries. Zero injuries today.
Yeah.
I'm happy to report we do have zero injuries since we started this podcast. So
Yes. Well, so far.
yes, so far we have not lost anybody on the podcast here, and well, that's only really me. So that'd be a good thing. So let me back up here. So I've kind of jumped a little bit too ahead here, and we talked a little bit about the company and some of the making process. But let me jump back here to so you went to Berkeley, had a music. You kind of been making stuff in your garage, kind of mad scientist kind of thing. And I guess how did you really? And I did this out of order, but how did you end up going down this path, and then had this journey? How did you really start to becoming a master cymbal maker? A master, or whatever the correct term was.
No, cymbal smith, cymbal maker.
Yeah.
So like 2010 is I went to Berkeley. I didn't graduate from Berkeley. I left early. I wanted to I'm going to do the musician life, right? I'm going to blah, 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 be in a band. And then I didn't make any money. And then, you're just trying to do that lifestyle. And I never went all the way with it. So I always had to keep some crappy job in a warehouse or something. And it just I wasn't where I wanted to be. So eventually my mom was like, look, go back to school, go back to college, do something with yourself. So I went back to school. I ended up just getting a political science degree. I don't know why. I just wanted to get a degree to make my mom happy, basically. And so I had taken time off of drumming, but then towards the end of that, I was really missing it. And that's when I started building or customizing drums, because I was bored with college. I was like, I want to get back into doing stuff I like. So that's when I started really experimenting, 2010, 2011. And from there, it just was this long process of tinkering, but never having an appropriate place to work. I was moving around a lot. So I would set up a little workshop, but then have to move and then, take time away from it. So this is why my journey has taken a really long time, even though it started back then, 2010.
Right.
2015 or 2016, I got really into YouTube, and maybe even before that, I found out this guy, Craig Lauritsen. He's one of the OG independent cymbal smiths. He's in Australia. I was trying to figure out, how can I do this? How do I get some really strong information on how to make cymbals? And he was the only website that he had a website that had any kind of information on it. And when I found it, it was I was being struck by lightning. I was like, oh my God, this is the guy. He's done it. He's got a lathe and he's got all these cool hammers and he's got all this information. And it was just this awakening. And then from that moment on, I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So I just kept on. Eventually I got in touch with Heather Stein, who's a cymbal smith, independent cymbal smith like myself, out in California. I don't think she's doing it anymore, but she was back then. Around 2016, we became friends just through email and messages and stuff. Eventually she was like, hey, if you want to come out here, I can teach you some stuff. So I flew out to Cali for a couple of days, and she was my first time ever using a lathe. And she let me lathe some cymbals on her lathe, and she taught me a little bit about hammering. It was real short. It was an afternoon and a half. It was very, very brief. And I came back. But what she taught me was very helpful. And then from then on, I was back on my own. Finally got a lathe set up, and just experimenting until 2017 or 18. I got in touch with this guy, Francisco Domene, who's in Aveiro, Brazil, who was like, look, I'll give you the master class. Just come here. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll do it. Let's go. Let's get on the plane. So I told my wife, let's go. Get on the plane. We fly to Brazil. And so I had already been doing this for a very long time, but there were still things that I didn't understand. And I spent a week with him. And after that week, I was like, that's when it all just was off and running hard, So I went back again in 2019 or 20 for more with him. I'm always learning, always trying to learn more and more. But the business was started officially 2017. Okay. And just been going. So then I went to Turkey this past summer, and spent time with some masters over there. So I've been in the presence of like the world's greatest cymbal makers from all over the world, and have picked up things from everybody, and plus all the years of my own like trial and error. So like there's so much in here now. There's so much experience, and that's what I bring to the table, that is not brought to the table by, I don't think, anybody else.
Right. So yeah, and it's so it went from, would it be safe to say it went initially as a hobby that then you just took it and kicked it into a high gear?
It began as a hobby only because when I began, it had to be a hobby because it wasn't making money, But I knew instantly from the time I saw Craig Lorton's website, from the moment I clicked on that, I was like, this is my destiny right here. This is it. I'm doing this. It was like, there's nothing is going to stop me. Like, I will like bash my head through a concrete wall if I have to. Like, I'm going to do this. And I knew from the very beginning, it will be a business. It's just going to take however long it takes. And it took me a long time, dude. It's so many like, oh, I'm getting there. And then, oh, I'm getting there. And then like over and over and over and over again. But you just consistency and don't quit. That's how you get stuff done. Yeah. Very simple.
Yeah. That's an awesome story because again, it's the passion. That's what's driving it, right? It's
passion. 100%.
Yeah. You weren't giving up on, as you said, as soon as you saw his website, and then things just started to kind of line into, it's like seeing the Matrix, I guess, for you, right?
100%. Yep.
And then kind of knowing how to, and again, back to the internet, right? Is being able to
the
look
internet rules.
Then that's, I always say is I have this love-hate internet,
Me too. And I complain about it a lot, but dude, the greatest things that I have in my life are all a result of it. I have made some of the greatest friends, like Francisco in Brazil. I never would have known him. Now he's like, I've visited him 2 times. He visited me once in Albania. Like he's, like one of my greatest friends in the world, and even Craig's a friend of mine now. Like we Skype, like it's just unbelievable. I know people from, you could spin a globe and stop it anywhere and put my finger down, and there's a person nearby that I could go fly to their country and somebody would receive me and let me stay with them.
Oh, wow.
Just because of this business, because of people that I've met, either customers, other cymbal makers, drummers. Like it's wild, dude. Like the world completely opened to me. Like, you know what I mean? It's an insane feeling, but it's great. I absolutely love it. And I got to tell Craig, like, dude, he changed my life, man.
Yeah.
It was really cool to have him just as somebody I can even talk to now. It's awesome.
No, it's, and that's again, they said the love-hate relationship with the internet and social media and things like that. But it's also, there's all these good things that come with it to people with like interest and, like us. And we're
how cool is this, man? Like,
I know.
It's like we've known each other forever, but like we just got online.
That's right.
It's the best. It's the best thing, man.
And again, that's part of this. I know my odd connection or my odd quagmire of how does Drums and Rums kind of tie in. But yeah, there's just 2 things that I had interest in, and then it just kind of went. And of course, it rhymes, it's catchy, so it's you gotta run with it.
Yeah, no, but there's so many like comparisons, really, like especially with the manufacturing part of it, the craft part of it, like I totally dig that. There's so many things similar between like making craft spirits or whatever and making something like cymbals. That the aging and all the little steps, man. It's
and you've definitely probably would get an appreciation if you ever get a chance to do any cruises or whatever, is visit probably some of these distilleries in the islands, and especially like Haiti, because Haiti's very much still a very manual process. The donkeys going around the circle and pulling. I mean, there's very much a.
Have you been there?
I have not. I have not been to Haiti, but I because of the internet, I know about it though.
Yeah. No, that's just curious. I'm not sure that's a place that. I don't know if it's even a place you'd want to visit. I'm not sure, but
no, it's we live in a world. It's as of right now, it's very challenging to go see and so forth, but.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So, Um, yeah, so that, I mean, that is really cool. And I think, again, Nick, is you talking about your story there, where you've taken, again, this lifelong, going through, and how, at some point, like, as like you said, your mom said, go get a degree, go to school, and it's like, okay, but yeah, I still have this burning in the back of my mind here. This is what I feel that I really want to do. And then it's great to see, um, things lined up, and then be able to really catapult you forward to where you're at today.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess when we talked a little bit about that, supply chain stuff is like, what kind of impacts has it had on you, over the last couple of years, right? I mean, COVID's been crazy, and then now we're out of COVID,
Yeah.
but yet all the effects from COVID's now still kind of hitting.
Yeah. It's been, I knew when COVID came along that it was going to be a delayed reaction because, it's nothing, just, you don't feel it right away.
Right.
Right. Like, even with like, when, the wars and stuff like the Afghanistan stuff, like we're slowly feeling those financial effects, like over time, like it's not immediate. Right. But, when COVID came along, my business I was like, this is going to kill me. Right. And I was busier than I'd ever been. Like, I don't know if people were home, people were getting back into their interest, they were bored, whatever. But I was like insanely busy at the beginning, which was great, because I was like, I'll take it. But yeah, over time, what's happened now is the raw material costs have gotten insane. Like the cost of my raw bronze has doubled since 2020, doubled.
Wow.
So, and my cymbal prices have not doubled. They have gone up incrementally, but they have certainly not doubled. Um, so that has been an unbelievable challenge. Fortunately, the U.S. has a favorable trade agreement with Turkey, and it's like if I was getting sourcing materials from China, it would be a disaster. But I know better than to do that. I can still get the stuff. Like there hasn't been like, oh my God, you got to wait forever. That hasn't really happened, but the cost has been really hard to bear. And it's tough because now people are feeling it. The gas, the Russia thing, like
Right.
the tin that is supplied to the foundries in Turkey, a lot of it comes from Russia, which is a big problem. It's scarce now because it's being used in laptop batteries, electric car batteries. It's like very, very scarce. The copper, a lot of it comes from Chile, and Chile was completely shut down from COVID. Nothing was exported. So that was a problem. Like, so all this stuff is catching up now, and the prices are just ridiculous. And it's hard to explain to people, oh, hey man, can you give me this deal? Or just, it's like, man, I would love to, but like, you're going to put me out. Like, if you want to have businesses like mine exist, like you can't just nickel and dime every sale, like, oh, I need this off. I need this off. Like, we do not make nearly what people think that we make.
Right.
Like when you see the price of a cymbal, not all of that is going, not even a fraction of that is going into my pocket. You know what I mean? It's very difficult. I'm not like whining or complaining here, just trying to explain.
Yeah.
So it's, that's been a challenge. The cost part of it has been a big challenge. And just people now, food is more expensive. Gas is more expensive. Everybody's thinking twice about making that extra purchase that they were going to make. Do I really need it? That kind of stuff. So we'll see. Like I'm doing all right now, but like it's, it's obviously a little concerning when you see the economy doing stuff like this, but everything goes up and down, man. I'm never going to quit. I'll die on my sword, as they say.
Or your lathe, I guess.
Or my lathe. Yeah, I'll impale myself or cut my head off or something. Yeah. But I have no intention of stopping. I mean, I left I had another job that I was working concurrently because like when you start a business, you don't just, you have to fund the business, right? Like you have to invest money in the business as it grows. So I was working and eventually realized I had to stop doing that because I was getting health problems from all the stress. But I left that career at the beginning of this year at probably the worst time ever, because like the economy and everything crashed and the raw material costs going up. But I am a fighter and I will push through and make it happen as I always have.
Yeah. And again, you have a craft, skill, and those are, like we were talking earlier, is those things, can carry on that, to be able to still do, God forbid, and but I think my point is, if you had to go in the meantime off to go do something else, you know how to run machines, you know how to
Yeah,
manufacture, right? So
sure.
it's not, but hopefully that never comes to that. But again, at least you have a knowledge and skill. Again, it goes back to that craftsmanship. I think that again, a lot of folks, kind of don't realize how much is lost in some of that. And I'd went to same boat. I'd graduate high school. I didn't know really what I wanted to do, and spent about a year at the community college just taking the classes and not sure. And then all of a sudden, it just hit me that I got it somehow interested. It struck me about doing drafting.
That's a cool thing, man.
So, and I kind of got into CAD. CAD was just started to come out and about, and this is where I'll show my age now. 94-ish, 5 or so forth. And, I got into drafting and into CAD and doing AutoCAD and things like that. And I'm not sure if I can go back to it because I've been away from it for so long in what I'm doing today. But, at the end of the day, it's like, going into that. And again, as I mentioned too, manufacturing is, I did work part-time when I was going to college at the place that my dad worked at. And I was very close when I was going to community college and I was working there part-time, was doing an apprenticeship into, as a tool and die maker. And he's like, I never would have thought. And I'm like, well, I said, I grew up and this is all these things you did. And trying to explain to, other kids or people what your father does. Oh, he makes tools like hammers. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, it's not that kind of tool. It's, they're making parts that make things and so forth.
Tools to make other tools. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I was always fascinated running, whether it's the CNC machines or the grinders or and all that stuff is to make the dies and the punches to go through. So yeah. So we were. So anyway, cool. I didn't pursue that path. It's something happened and so forth. But obviously, I still look back at that time when I spent making machining and making and so forth. It just wasn't as cool as making cymbals like you do, but it definitely.
That's maybe not as sexy to the outside world, but it's right. Cool. I love that stuff. Yeah. I mean, to me, that stuff's very exciting.
Yeah.
I wish I could live like a million lifetimes because there's so many things I can be interested in. I have one of those brains where I want to learn everything. I want to do everything. And I know I'm capable if I spend the time to do almost anything. Not to sound like arrogant, but you know what I mean? Like I can attach to stuff and get really into it. It's dangerous because once I do, I get like laser focus and then I can shut everything else out. Right. But, I would love to learn more about machining and all that stuff. And like, man, if I was better at math, I think I could have been a really great engineer, but I suck at math. So,
all right. So you're not falling into that math problem that's circling around on Facebook about, the 8 divided by 4 in times parentheses 2 plus 2. I don't know. Anyway, there's a whole thing circulating on Facebook about people trying to put the answers. Like, what is the answer to this?
Well, I remember this PEMDAS. Parentheses, right. Exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction.
Right. And there was a whole, but then there was a whole big back and forth. People are I guess, use different, I don't know. It was just interesting. It's like,
well, yeah. I mean, apparently math is, I don't know, because I don't have kids like in school. I don't have kids at all, but apparently kids nowadays are learning math way differently than we did.
Yeah, I know.
They changed it, right? Like it's called like Common Core or something. I don't know, but
yeah, some of that's starting to go away, especially here in Florida. I know they're really trying to get rid of some of this teaching of how. Yeah, it's kind of. I know that's the other internet meme of how kids learn.
Yeah, but when I see math stuff on the internet, I'm like, no, scroll. Get away. I don't
care. I left school. Don't need. Oh, that's what they meant when they said you had to learn algebra was so you can solve math problems on Facebook. That's why they said you had to learn algebra.
Algebra.
So,
waste.
So big, and I guess something there about the manufacturing, and we'll move on. Is I always would have thought that manufacturing like cymbals like that was, as you mentioned in the lathes, were more of a machine pressed kind of, But I guess maybe because just that thickness of that metal, it's going to have to take some tremendous amount of
the factory, like the Zildjian Avidus, when he came to the U.S. They were really the only game in town, and they realized that if they were going to manufacture, the way it's done in Turkey is the way that I still do it today, which is you hammer the flat blank sheet into into its final cymbal profile shape, it's all done through the hammering process, which is very labor intensive and difficult, but it does get the best result. But Zildjian figured out like, hey, there's ways we can speed this up, you know, and they have an 80-ton hydraulic press to just take that thing and boom, cymbal shape, you know. But the problem with that is it doesn't respect the bronze in the proper way to get the best sound. That's a whole complex discussion, and I'll probably take up too much time if I get into it. But yes, it makes it faster, but you sacrifice things by doing so.
Yeah, maybe we've got to have a separate follow-up episode.
Sure,
or
anytime.
Maybe it could be a Patreon. I can maybe try to talk my dad into being a tool diver and talk about that type of machining and so forth and press. Yeah, because that's how
there's a line, dude. There's a line. I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off mid-sentence there, but I don't have a problem with machines. Like machines are part of like being human, right? We've gotten where we are because man learned how to build tools, use those tools to build more things. Like I'm fine with that. I don't make cymbals completely by hand. I need a lathe. I need electricity. You know, I do have a power hammer I use for certain things. I have a drill press. Like you do need some machines, but there is a line where you use the machine only to serve like a purpose, but not to the point where it starts to degrade the product. And that's you can get very carried away with, efficiency, but then you just start to lose things. So it's always about, for me, it's respecting that line. What is going to get me the best result? Sure, I want to do it the smartest way possible, but not if it infringes upon the final quality. That's a no-no for me.
Right. No, I get you, because it's like, you know, making drums, right? You're cutting down a tree. It's not a guy with an axe, you know, today, right? There's machinery now that can take the tree down quicker and so forth.
What am I going to use, a foot pedal lathe? Like, you know, I have like one giant, you know, hamstring or whatever.
You can work on your double bass that way, right? That'd be great, right?
I mean, they did used to have foot pedals lathes. It's crazy, or an animal would turn around in a pole and that would spin the thing. It's crazy, bro.
There you go. I'm sure that's what you want to tell your wife, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to really go real traditional.
Yeah, super hipster, man. I got a donkey in the garage. We're going old school. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, she's like, nah, that's all right. So, so the we were talking there about the I mentioned just there a little briefly about the Patreon. So you have a Patreon channel set up.
I do.
Yeah. So what is it? What's it all about? And I guess really, who's the target audience that you want folks to you know? I mean, I guess what are you offering there that you know people should check out that they can't get maybe from some of the other social media avenues?
It's so it's all exclusive content. So it's stuff that's not available anywhere else. You know, a lot of times what I'll do is I make my Patreon content and I'll chop up little pieces of it, and that stuff will be put for free, you know, on YouTube or Instagram or something, but you're not seeing the full thing. The target audience was, I got really into researching cymbal history, and I'm kind of a nerd and just doing research in general. When I was doing those drum history podcasts, I was getting really into all of that stuff, and I was putting out a ton of information, and people responded really positively to it, man. I got great responses from even people from Zildjian and Meinl and stuff hit me up and said, hey, that was great. You know, we learned a lot. So I thought, let me continue with this. It's not a channel that's explicitly designed to, here's how to make cymbals. I'm not going to do that. You know, I don't want to like, here, just pay me money and I'm just going to give you my tricks. Like, it's not that. It's more designed for people. You will learn some things, definitely. But for people, either cymbal makers, drummers, or just those who are just interested in crafts, you know, at all, can learn more about how it all works, you know, because I think drummers need to be more educated on how cymbals are made. The marketing from the big companies is a lot of BS. They've been very misinformed. And I think because of that, people make a lot of bad choices when they buy cymbals, or they come to me and they request things that don't make sense. And I was spending a tremendous amount of time trying to explain these things to people. And I was like, I got to centralize this information. You know, I can't spend 2 hours with every customer every day. I need to be compensated a little bit if I'm going to do that, because it's taking time away from me actually making money.
Right.
So let me figure out a way to make some informative content that's fun to watch, you know, and you will learn about these different things. I talk about the lineages from how Zildjian evolved into, you know, Istanbul, Agop, and Mehmet, and how that turned into a media, all that other stuff. I have these long form videos of my trips to Turkey, visiting the factories over there, you know, behind the scenes stuff. I have interviews with people. Like I'm doing an interview. I just did an interview with Sarah Hagen, formerly of Zildjian. Now she's Sarah Hagen backstage. that's coming out. I've interviewed other cymbal makers. I've interviewed, drummers. Just it's all kinds of stuff. Super in depth for drummers, cymbal makers, or just people that are just interested in, interesting craftsman stuff like this.
Cool.
That's where it's at.
So how can folks find you on Patreon?
It's patreon.com/NickyMoon Cymbals.
Okay.
And I only have one tier. I don't have like, you can do this or this. It's I think it's $9.99 per month. So it's like $10 a month. I try to upload weekly. Sometimes it's bi-weekly, or sometimes it's more than once a week, but it's always, nice, long, well-made content. I give you a lot of information that nobody else is giving out. Like it's really in-depth stuff. It's all a result of a lot of research that I've done and travels and just my hard work and all my experience, all being put out there. So
there you go. No, that's as we were talking before. So I think you need help to teach me a class on how to Patreon. What I still haven't figured it out.
It's really not that hard. Yeah. It's just like I said, man, you just make content, get some great content, make it exclusive to the people that are paying you, and then just advertise it by taking little free snippets and putting it on your free socials.
Cool.
That's pretty much all I do. There you go. I just gave it away. I should have put that on Patreon and made people pay for that information.
Oh, no, it's all right. Well, nobody's seen yet other than me.
Edit this out. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what everybody does. I just copied the how does everybody else do it thing.
Yeah. So. We could do a segment here where you're like, you could I'll give you the video to put on Patreon. So, hey, I made the host, drink a shot from every bottle there and see how this interview went to shit.
Yeah. Well, like when I was doing drum history, like what Bart did, he puts those out. People can just listen to those podcasts. But then he was like, hey, stick around for an extra 10 minutes and we'll have 10 minutes exclusive with NickyMoon if you want to go over to Patreon. He do stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'll be your first one. If you want to cut this off and we'll do 10 minutes exclusive, go start your Patreon page.
That's a excellent point. I may need to, and we're going to go ahead and record it, but maybe what I've been typically doing with the guest is this segment here that I may need to do. And I'm going to get to this segment here as, like I said, you've listened to the podcast, so you probably know what's going to be coming up here shortly. Yeah. But before we jump there, let's do it. And then I'm going to come back to what I wanted to talk to you about here about specifically about this wall here behind me. I guess I should change the camera there. So sorry. So let me, we'll jump into this segment here that most of everybody listens in the podcast or has viewed it is. So in 4 beats or less. So we're going to get to this segment here. So, all right. So Nick, you're going to go through. Has went through the hot seat already, and she's gone through it. So in 4 beats or less. So you ready?
I don't know. What's the question going to be?
What's the question going to be? Well, again, if
that defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Exactly. All right. It's at the
hot. All right. Let's just go. I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. So in 4 beats or less, who's on your Mt Rushmore drummers?
Oh, great question. Okay. Vinnie Paul, Pantera.
Okay.
Buddy Rich, Mike Dawson, and Joe Tomino.
Okay.
Who's a guy that probably everybody's like, who's that? But he's from Brooklyn. He's played in a band called Dub Trio. He's phenomenal. Just outstanding. Is that enough people?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's because so recently somebody asked me, say, well, how many people are on, how many people can I have? I go, well, I guess technically since you asked, I guess it's your Mt Rushmore, so it's just, I guess you
just keep going, right?
Yeah, I guess you depends on how big that mountain's going to be, right? And especially sometimes it doesn't go over really well when I ask that question for drummers who are outside the U.S. and then I have to explain. I'm like, it's like one of those. I told you a joke, but I have to explain to you now. So
yeah. You know what's funny? I'm not as much of a drum nerd as people might think. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm not that deep into that. I'm more into making cymbals, and actually, I probably have more passion about the guitarist that I like than I do.
Okay.
I'm a guitar player too, but yeah. So those would be the ones. Those are just because like Pantera was like, that was my band. I was obsessed. I still am obsessed. My drum teacher when I was a kid was a Buddy Rich fanatic. He taught me how to play jazz, and that influence came through strong. Mike Dawson, I think, is just the greatest, most creative drummer I think I've ever met. The guy's just unbelievable, man. He can do anything. He can do anything, and he's captivating to watch. And yeah, Joe Tomino is just like an absolute he's just crazy, man. The guy's, look him up, man.
All
The
right.
guy, he uses all these incredible digital effects, like with one hand while he's playing with the other hand. Like he does this wild stuff. It's cool reggae, punks, like mix. It's sick, man.
Hmm. Yeah,
Badass.
that's a name I haven't heard. I mean, Dawson only recently.
Look up
yeah.
Dub Trio. That's the
Okay,
band.
Dub
Dub
Trio.
Trio from Brooklyn. Yeah,
Okay.
they're sick, dude.
All right. All right. So
That's it.
All right. So we're gonna go. So question number 2 now. All right. So that was good. So question number 2, we're gonna go and we're gonna stay kind of a little bit in our sense of what you're doing here. So question number 2, what's your most important tool in the workshop?
Whew. The one? There can only be one thing?
Well, yeah, I said the most important tool.
Jeez.
This one's tougher than the first one.
Well, it's tough because it's like, is it my hammer or is it my anvil? Because I need both of them.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
I'm gonna I guess I'll go with the anvil because I can always. There's a bunch of hammers.
Okay.
But the anvil is like the one thing that if you take that away, like I can't do my job.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
The anvil.
All right. The anvil is the answer. All right. Very
Yep.
good. All right. So all right, we're doing good. So now
Because I guess I could punch the cymbal with my fist against the anvil if I had to.
yeah, I guess if you were Hulk, right? You definitely could, make some symbols out of that.
Yeah. Not advisable, but whatever.
Yeah. All right. So question number 3. Now I reached out to somebody to help some answers put these questions together here. So you can blame this person.
Oh, jeez. Where's this going?
Yeah, right. So question number 3. Would you rather meet an alien or walk on the moon?
Oh, dude. I know who told you that. Oh my God, that's impossible because I want both of those things more than anything in the world. Those are like two of my dreams. I'm obsessed with the moon.
This person is going to love the fact that you're that this question was asked and she's,
exactly. I knew it. My dear. Okay. Oh, how many beats do I have left?
Yeah, right. Yeah. What's the tempo? Everyone always asks, well, what's the tempo?
Meet an alien.
Okay. All right. So what kind of alien would have been?
What kind of alien would I want to meet?
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously you probably don't want to meet the.
I don't want the one that's gonna like bite my head off and like do something to my bum, like.
Yeah. So more like an ET.
Yeah, like don't probe me, bro.
Or,
no, just something to come here and just let me know because I've always had this feeling that like there's no way that we're the only life. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So is this what influenced the alien symbol?
Partially, yeah. I got really obsessed with Area 51 and stuff for a while.
Okay.
I've always been I would love. I'm not like one of these crazy seekers that believes all this stupid crap because it's all nonsense. Like, oh man, like this. I was out in the woods and this thing came and picked. I was like, shut up, dude. You have schizophrenia. Like that's what that is.
So you're not condoning anal probing then?
No, and I'm not. I think everyone that says that they've had like an encounter is lying, basically. But because there's no credible people. I'm like, can you show me one credible person, please? Somebody who's not like nuts, but there aren't any. But man, a creature that would just say, hey, like, look, there is something else, and you guys aren't it. There's more. That's all I want to know.
All right.
Really.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, you can thank that person that will try to conceal their innocence.
I'm gonna send her a message when I'm done.
All right. So you had mentioned that you were a coffee guy. I think it looks like you're drinking some there, right? So all right. So since you are from the great state of Jersey, as we talked about there, you're
now
you are right
from Massachusetts.
Yeah. So you're a Northeast guy.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I was, originally I was born in New Jersey and so forth. So here's the question. I have a feeling I know the answer, but I think I'm going to add a little extra tinge to it here. So,
okay,
Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks?
Okay, good. That's a good question. It's a very good question.
But hold on, what about Wawa?
Get Wawa. I don't care. Wawa. I don't care about Wawa.
Okay,
I'm
we
not.
started to get
Wawa
Wawas down here, so that's why.
It seems to be like a major Jersey obsession. I don't know what the big deal is about Wawa. It's like, oh, it's a place you can get gas and sandwiches. Like,
Well, the coffee is supposed to. This coffee is decent for a gas station esque, But anyway, so
I haven't. You know what? I haven't given it
okay.
much of a chance.
Okay.
So, but I like I drink coffee black. I don't like to contaminate my coffee with cream and sugar. I think that's sacrilegious. So I tend to, and I like it cold and black, just like my soul, right? I like cold brew, iced cold brew. That's my jam. So you do need to have a nice quality coffee for that. So nowadays I would say Starbucks, but back in the day, I was a Dunkies guy because Dunkies in Massachusetts back in the day, that's where Dunkies is from. They're from Quincy, Massachusetts, and they used to be really good. But since they have just exploded and become the super franchise, the quality has gotten absolutely terrible. And here in New Jersey, I have not ever been to one good Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah,
not a single one.
I worked.
Tastes like pool water. The coffee. It's disgusting.
I worked in a Dunkin' Donuts when I was in high school, and I grew up in Sayreville, New Jersey. So
Sayreville, okay, cool.
Yep.
The Starland Ballroom.
Yep. There. So I don't know if it's still there, but it's like on the corner of Washington Avenue and Main Street there, right there before you get on the Parkway. But it's So anyway, so that was the $3.35 an hour. I think it was $3.35 an hour. But
jeez.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah. So I know again showing my age again. Y'all can see the gray that's in my my beard there. So all right. Yeah. No, it's a good question. So yeah. Right.
I got it. I'm hiding it with the pop screen.
Yeah, that's a good move, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I gotta figure. Man, I learned so much from you, man.
Yeah, man. I got all these cool tricks.
Here's your Here's add to the Tuesday tips. See,
there you go.
See, I did my homework. Nice.
Right? You did do your homework, man. Very good. I'm impressed. Haven't done that in a while. I got to do that this week.
So, who was? I just had a brain fart there about that question. Oh, actually, because I had this morning some coffee that was the beans were aged or stored or whatever in a rum barrel, and so it was a kind of a so it's all out I've got is already grinded up, but it's from a company in South Georgia that actually makes rum. It's a full farm. They make
that's cool.
Everything the sugar cane is made from that farm, not like bought from somewhere else. So it's one of the few places outside of Florida or Louisiana that actually has. I mean, Southern Georgia is almost pretty much Florida anyway area, but it's pretty cool. Richland Rum is the name of the company that does that. But
nice. Does it taste like booze, the coffee, at all?
No, it's not you're not getting you're not picking up a little buzz off of your morning coffee, which would actually be pretty cool, I guess, if you're at work. What do you?
It'd be rough for the hangover crowd if you had too much rum the night before. You don't want your coffee smelling like rum, or maybe you do. I don't know.
The hair of the dog, right?
Well, that's
right. Yeah. It's always you never get a hangover. You just always keep drinking.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, segue. So all right. So you did a great job there, Nick. All right. So you can share your comment there with our friend there who helped supply some question there.
Very good. That was a good one.
Yeah. So so let me I want to come back here before we start wrapping up.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned here on the wall behind me here, so we do have a connection, and is actually with one of our Drums and Rums alums who has been on the podcast. I think it was back in the summer of 2020. So back when I was starting this out and trying to figure things out in the middle, I didn't start the podcast because of the pandemic. I just started just before we went into lockdown. I got 2 episodes and then we went to lockdown. So I wasn't anybody who was stuck in their house and said, yeah, what do I do? Buy NickyMoon Cymbals or, start a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? So these drums, I had this idea, right? And I saw a lot of people that are on YouTube and they're doing their shows and whatnot. And I had this, and I have always had this, the bass drum head here, and I had it just hanging on the wall. And I said, I really would like to have shelves. My wife had said, why don't you put some shelves on the wall? I said, yeah, I guess okay. I said, no. I said, wait a minute. It was like one of the light bulb went off.
Yeah.
I said, I know what I want, and I'm going to throw this idea out to this person. And this person is somebody that you've collaborated with.
Alan from Woodland Percussion?
No. So R. David R.
R. David R.
R. David R. made these. Yep. R. David R. made these shelves for me. You know, I reached out to him back. I think it was back.
Oh, dude, did he do an episode about that? He did, right?
That's right. These are those cymbals, or those cymbals. These are the drums that he made, and it was one of those. I messaged him and said, "Hey, I have an idea." I said, "Would you be interested in making these shelves for me that were drummed? Because again, I got this wall here, and how do I tie the rum aspect and drums and what?" I said, "Here's what I'm thinking. If you can take a 22-inch bass drum, obviously to match the drum head that I already had, and cut a bass drum down to about maybe 6 or 7 inches deep, and then do that, and then put some shelving and whatever, and then that's kind of at least a rough idea." And we went back and forth on some things for a while, and I said, "All right, it's also going to have to hold, nearly 30 pounds of weight on, to at least get 5 to 6 bottles on the shelves there." Yeah. And so we went back and forth on a few things, and and he worked on it, and he reached out to me, said, "All right, I'm gonna ship them to you." And I was like, "Well, cool." And then I was like, "All right, I got this big box." I knew what it was, obviously, and I was holding back on wanting to open it because I knew I had to start doing more video-esque production shoots, unboxings, etc.
Yeah.
And so I held for a while because had been a little busy. So I had them for a while in the house that I just hadn't opened them because I wanted to have a really genuine reveal.
Yeah.
So I started watching some of his videos. I was like, all right, well, I need to really start honing on scripting and structuring this video. I said, well, let me watch some of David's stuff. And then I started watching this one video, and I got into it. I'm like, shit, this is the video on how he makes it. And I had to stop the video because I didn't want to ruin how he did it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But
That's
they
awesome.
turned out, everyone that sees them, they're like totally blown away,
it's awesome,
hardware,
man.
And again, you've seen David's video. I've posted my unboxing of them and installing them on the walls video.
Very cool.
I don't have David's viewership on videos
yet. Speaking of him, man, that's another guy I got to give props to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I think it was 2015. This is like right before I went out to California to meet with Heather, and like right before I kicked everything into gear with the business and stuff. I was watching his videos. He made this like one little video. He built this like bootleg cymbal lathe or something. And he was just doing all these cool project videos. And it was one of the people that I was like, man, I got to get my shit together. Sorry, I can't curse on here, but
go for it.
Like I got to get moving on what I want to do. Like I was watching him and like, yeah, I can do this, man. Like I got to get going, definitely helped kick me into gear. So props to R. David R, man. I was a big fan. Always have been. Yeah. It's really cool to be able to do that thing with him. Cause I was like, all right, many years ago I was watching him going, man, like I like what he's doing.
Yeah, he's the way he approaches it, and again, his
so authentic. It's just like no BS. He's like, this is who I am. This is how I talk. This is what I do.
Yep.
Deal with it.
And and he's got such a great structured ideas that he does, and that's a part of my.
Yeah, he's amazing, man.
Big fan. We were talking earlier about just slowing down a little bit, us to kind of recalibrate. Okay.
Yes.
Let's get some things in, and that's. I hope that at some point, to be able to produce. And that was why I wanted to watch some of his videos to get some inspiration on how to do my unboxing in the video of these shelves.
Yeah, that's cool.
So he was like, no, that's the video. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, but he did give me a shout out there. And I know my references, and sometimes I know it's can be a little bit of a turnoff for people because there is an alcohol reference, and and again, his channel is, but he did at least give me a shout out.
That's how it all works, man. Yep. So
networking. Big props. And I appreciate it for him coming on the podcast. I didn't think, I had a friend of mine who was helping me do some co-hosting during that summer of 2020. And he's like, hey, land whoever you want and we'll have him come on. Right. And he went and got David, and we're like, this is, again, I think my buddy Renee was like just as much, struck as, I was like, hey, we used to podcast. Whoever somebody wants to go after and get on, who didn't think they can talk on their own, let's go for it.
That's awesome.
All right, so Nick, so you made it through. You put through the suffering there.
I wouldn't call it that.
Yeah, so forth. But yeah, and just real quick, we were talking about David there before I leave into. Is definitely check out the video that you guys collabed with. Was The gong, right? He had a gong and or half of a gong. I'm not quite sure what all, but but he sent you something and you turned into something totally different, right?
Yeah, he had this big giant Siljan gong that had like a chunk missing from it, and he wanted it to be made into a flat ride cymbal. So he sent me that, and I filmed my part of it, and cut it down, cut off the curved edge and everything, and hammered it and lathed it, and did some tricks and logoed it and all that stuff, and made it into a cool flat ride and sent it out to him. And that's an episode on the R David R channel, which is super cool.
Yep. So definitely, yeah. You're watching this, definitely check out that video.
That was last year, so it would be in his like 2021 videos, because I know he uploads a lot of stuff, but I can't remember the exact date. I did so much media last year. I did like 7 podcasts, like a bunch of like just a lot of stuff. So it's all just like a blur.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting episode there, watching kind of the ideas, and that's kind of like how this started, right? It was like, hey, I got this idea. Are you interested in doing it? And at least it gives you something to do. And obviously, some of the comments there had a lot of great. Like, hey, we need to get into drum shelf making business, because apparently there's.
Yeah, they look great, man.
Yeah,
I might copy you, actually.
Yeah, no, I know. Once I put them on the wall, I realized
because I have a cutoff of a bass drum shell, dude.
Okay.
That I did myself. It's just been sitting in my attic, and now I'm like, hey, maybe I can use it. So don't be mad if like next time we talk, I have one.
Yeah, no, it's that. That'd be perfect.
It's not going to be as cool as the ones you have that were built by R. David R. Because that dude's way better at woodworking and stuff than I ever will be. But I'll try my best.
I did mention in the video, he did hide his signature inside the pocket of the drawer.
Oh, yeah?
The drawer that's behind the when I pull
that's
out.
Cool.
Like, so I get that's his little signature, like in the Drumeo video that he put his little stickers all over the house when they were shooting that video with Cooper.
That's awesome.
So yep. So all right. So you made it through the pain and suffering of the. So oops, I've done that again. I rubbed the microphone. And again, there, so you now are part of the alum there. So you got your Drums and Rums. We'll send you this shirt here. So
nice.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Yeah, you're definitely welcome there.
Need some new clothes. Perfect timing.
Yeah, there you go. I know. Well, now it's getting a little warm. So that was one of your tool tips. Your tool tips Tuesdays was about it sucks living in the north, and it gets cold, but then you can just wear layers, and you can take one shirt off, and then But now it's getting closer now, right?
Oh yeah, now there's a very brief period of time when it's comfortable to work, and then it just becomes obscenely hot and humid, and then it's not fun anymore. But that's it,
Yeah. The Northeast can be definitely crazy as far as the weather goes. Yeah.
I'm actually moving production out to Pennsylvania pretty soon.
Oh wow. Okay.
Northeastern PA, and I'll be north again, like more north than Jersey, but more like on the level of Massachusetts. So I'm wondering what it's going to be like. We'll see how the summer goes.
Yeah, because you're probably a little right. The elevation might be a little bit higher than where you're at now, right?
Oh, I would think so. Yeah. So we'll see, but we'll find out. But I'm sure it's going to be a hot one.
So as we wrap up here, Nick. Here's the shameless plugs. What do you want people to check out? What do you want people? What do you got? All about what you want people to go and come to.
First and foremost, the website, www.NickyMoon.com. I will add that I don't know when this is going to be aired, but I am just now this weekend migrating my website over from my former host over to Shopify. So if you go to it right now, it's maybe showing that it's not up, but it will be up like within 24 hours or 48 hours maximum. So www.NickyMoon.com.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. So it will be, so this will be part of our May series. So,
okay. So by then we should be.
Yep. So it will.
Yeah, we should be up. So that'll be a new website that's launching. It's a little bit, Shopify is a little bit more geared towards e-com than it is like the showy, like it looks amazing website thing. So we're still kind of building up the aesthetic part of it, but really for the functionality, it's going to be a better user experience and things are organized a lot better. So on the website, there's going to be a section called Off the Rack, where if you just want to go in and shop for it, like kind of like mycymbal.com, this is the exact cymbal that you're going to receive right here. Mm-hmm. Those cymbals will be available for purchase. You'll see the video of the exact cymbal that you're going to get. And then there's another section where you go to the product pages for the different series, and then you can build your cymbal. Literally, I'm going to choose the size, the diameter, the thickness, all that stuff, and you can have it ordered. and you'll receive it, sometime in like 4 to 6 weeks tops, So there's the two options of building a cymbal or buying an existing one. But
that makes your life easier, so you're not chasing down emails of I want this, and this, right?
Well, I just try to streamline the buying experience for people. Like I try to create the experience that I would want to have, because don't forget I'm a drummer, so I know what drummers want, and how to make it accessible to people. Some people want to just shop for that one cymbal, the exact thing, and hear it. And other people want to be able to start the process from the very beginning. So it's like, I'm going to give you both, all centralized on the website. So the website's number one. You can go learn about the different series and products and learn about me and all that other stuff. And then there is the patreon.com/NickyMoon Cymbals, which we already talked about. And then there's my Instagram, which is sort of my primary social media, NickyMoon_Cymbals, where you can see all kinds of daily uploads of, what I'm working on, modifications that I've done, all these other things. There's my YouTube channel, which has, again, product videos. It has interviews, product reviews. I don't do much on Facebook these days because I don't like it, but so those are the main ones. The website is number one, Patreon's number two. And if I'm forgetting anything, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, I'll be at the Music City Drum Show coming up in July. That's in Nashville.
Cool.
So I will be there. And so if anybody wants to come out to that and meet and greet and say hello and check some stuff out, that'd be a good time to have some FaceTime.
All right. Very.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No.
I'm just thinking stuff's coming into my head right now as we do
go
this.
for it.
I have an exclusive series with Philadelphia Drums and Percussion, the Broad Street line. That's out. They just got a new shipment over there. And I'm releasing a new shop exclusive series with Hawthorne Drum Shop in Pittsburgh, PA. And they're going to be receiving their first shipment within a month of their new line. This is an exclusive series. You can't even buy directly from me. You have to buy it from Hawthorne. All right. They're the only ones that have it. So that's something for everybody to check out as well.
Very. Now that's really cool to have.
So plug.
Yeah.
I think that's enough.
Go out there and check it out there. So yeah, I was wondering, we've got a drum shop here in Daytona Beach, and Dan, he's also an alum of the show too, but I know he's a boutique kind of place, and he's also a gear guy as well too. I think he got a lot of his start up, I think if I remember correctly, up in the Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania area. I think he worked a couple of the bigger known drum shops up in there. So, but yeah, it's totally cool. So, yeah, no, I appreciate it, Nick, for your time. Definitely, it's been great. We had a little bit of fun there with our little segment there. And again, appreciate we'll definitely get the shout out to Kira, definitely for connect us. And that's the thing is I love, as 100%. You were talking about, right, is you can go anywhere in the world there and run into somebody who or you've built up through this relationship over time. And that's kind of how I feel about this podcast is, I've got a lot of kind of crazy, like I said, I know I'm not so much one thing or the other, but again, I think there's, as we talked about, some similarities in the Drums and Rums space, and to build really cool, connections and with folks and learn more and keep up on them. So definitely, as I say, you tag me on stuff, I'll do my best to make sure I reshare and repost anything as long as I get tagged.
100%.
And so forth. So definitely. So, all right. So that is it for the podcast. I appreciate it. Thank you for again coming on a Sunday.
Of course. Thank you for having me, man.
Yep. So if you're listening to this podcast, definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, review, do all that stuff, because those things do matter on Apple Podcasts. I believe Spotify now has a review or comments thing as well too. That does make a difference for advertisers looking at how well a podcast is, and it does let people know that it is a podcast that others should check out. Also, all the other YouTube stuff that we're trying to get up going to. I'm in the same boat. I do a lot of IG stuff as well, and so definitely check us out. And thanks guys, and have a great afternoon. This is Paul with the Backbeats Meets the Spirits. Cheers, y'all.
Bye.